Welcome to Legend Makers, the podcast where education's true heroes take center stage.
Shine like a ray from the sun. There's something people look for but never can find.
We are back with another episode of the Legend Makers podcast. This will be episode 3 of the 2025 new year. I'm with Omar Cortez, a robotics teacher from Dallas ISD. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Scott. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man. So you guys are off. You got a little snow down in Dallas today. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's mostly black ice. That's what makes it dangerous. That's how we're off.
You get the sleet down there. You don't get the fluffy snow, right? You get all of that stuff.
Yeah, right now it's a bit of a mix of both.
Well, tell me about what you're doing in your classroom. So introduce us. I can look at I follow you on Twitter and or X now, and I watch what you do there. It's really cool. I saw your robot soccer the other day, and I think you're involved in like a drone league and all this. Tell us what you're doing there. What grade levels you working with? Paint a picture for people that are just tuning in.
Okay, so I am at a dual language campus, and I am a robotics teacher, also a drones teacher, and I also teach programming. When I first started there, it wasn't like they had gotten me to teach technology applications. And after that, I kind of sold them on this idea that if we just teach robotics all day, we can get these kids interested more and they're going to benefit a lot more. So then we started teaching robotics classes all the way through. So we have intro, advanced, advanced 2, advanced 3.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a whole continuum, and it starts in 5th grade and it goes all the way through 8th grade. So at the 5th grade level, it's an elective, and we're the only campus, I believe, in our whole district that uses it as an elective.
Okay.
And the kids move on all the way through 8th grade with me. If they get tired of the whole robotics thing, I also offer drones. I really love the whole drone aspect of it, both in the education and competitive aspect, because sometimes the kids are a little bit more intimidated with a building, or sometimes other kids build better and so on. Mm-hmm. And here, everyone's just kind of with an even playing field, and the kids love flying them right now. It's a big sensation.
Yeah, it is. That was my experience years ago. It's why I started Drone Legends, because I walked into a classroom with drones. I was a drone pilot, and somebody invited me into a classroom to say, come talk to the kids about drones. And you know what happens, right? They just light up. And so I saw that and I went, there's something interesting. These kids we've got their undivided attention. Why don't we do something with that? And I think you'd agree with me that that's the case.
Absolutely.
That they just have this magnetism, and then you can open up all kinds of teaching opportunities with them just because it's this cool thing that they get to fly.
Yes, and the kids love both. They love the robotics and they love the drones. As a matter of fact, so I coach both of them in competitive leagues, and the majority of my kids that do robotics are the same ones doing drones too. So
they are.
Yeah, gives them something else to program. Oh, go ahead.
Cool. No, it's all right. Go ahead. So they like the programming the drones is fun too, because you get to stand back and then watch your code take off, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's neat. That's really cool. And you've got a book, right? So Meshed Gears? Tell me about Meshed Gears.
So Meshed Gears is perfect for both kids and the new teacher. So I really challenged myself, and that's what took me so long to write. I'm trying to preface this thing, but what's really happening is it was an education yet entertaining book, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a true story about my first group of robotics students. And they came to me when they were in 6th grade, and we started this whole robotics thing during COVID. So there's no real competitions or in-person competitions yet. And I kind of tell this whole story of this kid. His name is Esteban. He comes to me and he's a nervous wreck. He has high anxiety. He's never done any of this before. And he ends up taking up the position of driver, which in robotics is like the face of the team kind of thing. And it forces him out of his shell, because not only talking to alliances through virtual competitions, but like even the interview, a part of it, and talking to his team. So now this kid is finding his voice, and it's this whole story of this kid finding his voice. Now, in the educational aspect of it, I take teachers also, if they really wanted to go through it, and kids, on how we've functioned as a robotics team from day one all the way till the World Championship. So I start off teaching the kids components, where they can, and the parts, building the hero bot. And then I move on to giving them the resources that my kids use when researching drivetrains or whatever it is that they need. So I dive deep into the engineering notebook. I dive deep into programming, using sensors, the dashboards, just what blocks, functions, all these things. So again, it's a big mixture of an education aspect with an entertaining true story, a heartwarming story that's very
great.
near and dear to me. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to read it. And so an educator could also pick this up and learn a lot from it in addition to a student.
Right.
Yeah. Is that what I heard? Did I get that right?
That's exactly right. So the students and the coaches can learn kind of what a team might look like in the classroom or in the.
Very cool.
Yes.
So what's your background? Like what got you into the robotics, or did you fall into it? Is it one of those stories?
It's interesting. I did fall into it during college. I was kind of just studying elementary education, and I did fall in love with like the technology class, right? So there was one class in particular towards my senior year where they teach you how to teach using technology. So when I fell into that, I started off teaching second grade, and I was doing everything with technology. So like in science, I was having kids taking pictures of like their celery in the water with the food coloring. And I'd have them like take pictures of it throughout each day and then make a little film of how it transformed and how it observed the colors.
Yeah, like a time lapse.
Right.
Yeah,
and during
cool.
during reading class, I was having them do like story retelling, also through video editing. And so the kids would take these iPads and then, little microphones and start doing voiceovers and pictures, and they were doing, those kinds of things. Math. I was doing stations where the kids were drawing on. Again, a lot of the stuff was through this iPad that they gave me, and it was just technology was what I loved.
Cool.
So after that, I evolved into a natural technology teacher. So I took on this middle school and elementary technology. It was like a K-6 program, and I was teaching everything from fundamentals of keyboarding, how do you draw, use docs, sheets, etc. And so just basic fundamentals. And it really wasn't until my first date with my wife, I was showing her, I was doing not competitive robotics, but I had an FLL kit that I think a previous teacher had left before.
And what is an FLL kit for those that don't know?
The first Lego League robot.
Got it.
So it's essentially a big piece of a box of Legos with a couple motors and a brain.
Yep.
And there's instructions for teachers to build with and things like that. And so I had this club that was just 1 hour a week, and we were building things and just finding instructions, and we're learning together. Really, I didn't know much about it.
Yeah.
But on that first date with my wife, I was showing her like my digital portfolio that I was holding on to as a teacher. I was showing her the pictures of the kids working on the robot, and she's like, "You really got to check out this Vex thing." She goes, "If you like robotics and this ecosystem with Vex, and all ecosystems are great, but it was the one she was doing." And she was like, "Check out, these are what my kids are doing." And she started showing me like videos of her kids at the World Championship doing like Next Level, which was the game at the time, and it was just awesome, man. And she convinced me. So I come over to Dallas ISD. Dallas ISD is amazing because they fund the robots, they fund the tournaments, they give the kids their food, they give them T-shirts. If we qualify to the regionals, they pay for that, and we qualify for worlds. So it was just like this perfect place that lets you hone in on the love for robotics without having to focus on like the fundraising aspect.
And is your wife an educator as well? Yeah,
is
she at Dallas as well?
Yes.
So she brought you. She said, "Come on over."
Yes.
And do this.
And
how long have you been
changing.
teaching? So you've been teaching for how long now?
8 years.
And your wife, how long?
13 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent.
Yes, she's been doing a lot longer. She's even been doing the robotics a lot longer. She has an all-girls robotics team, and then we have an all-girls drones team now. And
that's great.
She's been in the game a lot longer, but she's the one that introduced me to it, again, without knowing much. Her expertise with her kids, the one thing that they focused on, they're like, okay, so we don't necessarily know building, we don't know programming, but we know, science, and we know the notebook. And so Vex has a STEM challenge that they always have each year, and she always focused on the kids with that, and they always documented everything in their engineering notebook. And there was always like qualifying bids to the World Championship through these things. So yes, the building, the programming, they were pretty good, but the bread and butter actually came from the other parts of it.
The competition and all that.
Yes, so the competition entails more than just building and programming, which is an amazing thing because it really makes these kids well-rounded at everything, like the interview aspect, the documentation, the logbooks, and things. These other parts are so important to the world, and I feel like they get forgotten at competition often.
Yeah, okay.
So her and her kids, they kind of taught me like, okay, so yeah, maybe we don't have the best high-scoring robot, or we don't have the highest-scoring program, but we put our eggs into all these baskets, and eventually something hits, and we can get into worlds or regionals. Well, now after 3 years, we've learned everything, programming, and we can teach the kids programming, building, and all the fundamentals, and we're a bit more competitive in that aspect. But we still keep the same mentality of putting your eggs into every single basket so that you can give yourself the best opportunity to advance, or give those kids those best opportunities to advance.
Diversify the experience a little bit, have that's the diversification strategy, right? So don't just throw it all in one thing, go a little more broad.
Right. And I feel like
more well-rounded.
Often either the kids don't want to do it because yes, it is tedious to add that page, or maybe they don't want to do this thing because it's not as fun as driving the robot. But they show up to competition and tell me about it, because I've had motors burn up on the kids at the state championship where they score a 0, but they could still advance to worlds because their notebook ended up doing well. And
that's great. So they've got so much more. So it's not just understanding the small little narrow piece of it. It's seeing the big picture. And it's kind of like being a master of being able to have kind of all those pieces line up. So if something goes wrong, you've got another piece to work with, right? You've got something else to showcase. That's cool.
The motor might burn out. The robot might fall. The program doesn't hit because the floor might not be level. There's just different things. Maybe a kid erases a code. I've had that happen. Like at the competition, kids erase the code. So you really want to diversify, like you said. And I practice, interviewing skills with the kids. We start asking them, tell me about your robot. Make sure you're looking at adults in the eyes. You're telling me a story, the beginning, the middle, the end, things like that.
That's huge.
We make sure that they have a logbook every single day. Even if we're, just working on coding and we didn't advance too much because we learned one single concept, I need you to put that single concept in there that we learned. That's exactly.
So you've got documentation. So you're teaching process and methodology and documentation so that you go back and you can replicate your experiments. If something should get lost, you can always refer back to the logbook. Something I heard there, you're talking also about, this is a responsibility. I love the idea of this interview, being able to communicate effectively, right? Like, so communication is key, isn't it? So if you want to get an idea across, you've got to be able to communicate. And also the idea of being able to look somebody in the eyes and be persuasive. That's important. And I think a lot of kids today miss that. And it's really interesting to me because one might think that the robotics kids, that's not at all what they're into and about. But the reality is that if they've got to, so for me, these are inventors, right? And so an inventor always has to sell her idea. And you only can do that through clear, concise communication and understanding how to speak with people and present well.
Correct. So you have to be able to explain to the robot how you conceptualize this robot and brought it into fruition, I guess, a reality. And so there's like awards like the Innovate Award where you have like an innovative piece of the robot that the kids are able to explain. There's programming awards that without even having to execute the program because maybe they applied some kind of sensor in a very unique manner. And so all these things must be communicated effectively. And so that kind of goes right back to that book where these kids have to be able to communicate with their coaches, with their teams, with their alliances, and with the judges.
Well, we're going to link to your book in the show notes so people can just click there and go buy it because it sounds like a great book. So I'm sure hopefully we get some books sold for you. Tell me, you're super passionate, man. So why did you start teaching? What got you into teaching in the first place? Like,
that is a good question. There's no direct answer to that.
What keeps you going? I mean, what's your why, in other words?
My why is this whole robotics thing. Like, this is what's fun to me. Living vicariously through the kids, being able to go compete in different levels and going to cities. The traveling is fun too. Watching the kids succeed, watching them create something from point blank. And every year there's a whole new challenge. And every year, it's different. So the kids have to start from ground zero every single time. And just watching that evolution is probably what keeps me alive, man. And the kids are thinking about it all day. I'm thinking about it all day. The kids are coming to me in transitions. Mr. Cortez, this happened to me yesterday. I saw this on TV, and I think we can apply this. And just things. They can't wait to get back into the lab.
You're making learning a lot of fun, and you're having a lot of fun doing it. How would somebody? So, if somebody wants to get into this, let's just say somebody's thinking about getting into teaching. A lot of times they might get put into a position like this. Books like yours can be a helpful resource, I'm sure. What else? What would you say to somebody kind of entering in or getting started? What would you tell them? What kind of advice would you give them?
Reaching out and talking to coordinators or talking to other teachers, right? And so I am forever grateful for the teachers that help me out. There's teachers that are gatekeeping because they take this so... It is competitive, but some of them, they gatekeep. Like, if they're the ones competing, I'm like, man, it's for the kids. Like, let's not forget why we're here. And you ignore those. You will get that sometimes. You ignore that, and you start talking to other teachers and just say hello, introduce yourself. But what the insight you get from other teachers, I would say, is probably the most effective. And even maybe even reaching out to that coordinator, right? So every district should, or usually will have like 1, 2, 3 people kind of running the whole program, and you can always ask them, and they're willing to help you out, because to them, they want to retain those teachers in that position to just know that their job and responsibility is to help you, and they'll gladly will, because their goal is to grow the program. So if you can buy into it, then maybe you tell other teachers like, hey, you should try this out too. And so
great,
just reaching out to those teachers and the coordinators.
And you're up to 5th through 8th. Is that where you, so have you ever had any of your students, you got any success stories, any modern inventors that have gone on? So if 8th grade, and if you've been teaching for 8 years, you don't have anybody that's kind of reached adulthood yet, or do you? Are they getting close?
So I've been teaching for 8 years, but the first kids I taught were like in 2nd grade, and then after that it was K3. But so the closest I have right now is my first group of kids are barely going to graduate high school this year.
Yeah. Okay. So getting close.
We're getting close, but the best story I have about like success, or there's this kid, man, and he programmed for fun, like for fun. We'd be at a competition, and he would be putting Pong on the Vex brain, like in C++ or just different things. And I call this kid out every year to come help my kids out. Like, hey, come give back to where you started, man. Come help out the Albots. That's our team. And they gladly do. There's a couple of them that'll come by, but this one in particular, he actually contributed to. There's this program. It's a CAD software. It's called Protobot, and it was made by this one student in college, and he abandoned the program. So my kid, he left it open source.
Just open sourced, yeah.
Yeah. So my student actually helped contribute to the modern app right now.
Oh wow!
So
cool.
he's written code for the new app, and they've added things like the whole field, this year's elements, different shaders and things like that.
So he's a senior?
Yes. No, he's a junior.
Oh, he's a junior.
He's a junior, but he's contributed code to that.
That's awesome. That must feel good to know you got him young and you had your little protege in there. I love that. How about the girls? How many girls do you have? What's the ratio? Is it skewed heavily, or how's it work?
Right now, this year we have 9. Okay. It's a 9-girl team.
9. You mentioned you have an all-girl drone team.
I also have a 5-girl drone team.
All-girl, just robotics.
All-girl? No. All-girl robotics, all-girls drone. And then I have a co-ed drone.
Oh, you do?
Yes. And then an all-boys team, robotics team. So we have... the all boys, the co-ed, and then the 2-girl teams. Yeah, the all boys, the co-ed, and then the 2-girl teams.
Nice, very cool, very very nice. So you've got, so that's kind of, I like to understand, because I'm just always so curious as to why people enter into the profession. And your job sounds super fun. So it sounds like you're having a blast all day, coding, robotics, building. And it sounds like Dallas ISD is real supportive too. I mean, that's also important, I think, is that you've got a good system behind you that really sees the value in what you're doing. So I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Dallas ISD, again, they provide the robots for the kids. They provide the drones. I get excited for a new curriculum. They'll help me adapt it, and they've been super supportive. That same support that they give me is what gets me excited because I can always be innovative with the lessons that I bring to the kids. And it's always updating. There's always releasing a new sensor, releasing something new, and that keeps it exciting for me too, man.
What's kind of the biggest challenge that you find working in this space? What is it?
Everything else. The actual teaching is not the problem. The coaching is the best part. Working with kids is amazing. It's the extra stuff that they ask for the teachers and then all.
It's all that stuff, all the other stuff, right?
Anything that's like the actual teaching is amazing.
Administrative stuff, is that what I'm hearing? It's the more the administrative stuff, I'm sure. Yeah. So a lot of times I like to think about people entering into the space here. Like I said early on, we were talking before the mics went on, is one of the things we like to do here is inspire, right? So we want people that are listening to be inspired about the profession. I think there's I read, every week or something, I see another news article where, look at the drop off in teachers year over year since like 2015, 2016. It's just unbelievable, right? So we want more teachers in the profession. And so if you were talking to somebody out there that's like on the fence, maybe they think it's their calling, but they're unsure of it, they're not sure about it, or they've taken the leap and they're heading in, but they're a little nervous. What advice would you give to somebody in that position?
Do something you love. So for me, it was that whole technology thing. And I'm always looking at the latest and greatest technology. And this is just something that I'm passionate about. And that's what helps me keep going, right? But another prime example of this is like my wife. She's a Texas studies teacher. And that's something that she loves. And she loves doing things with the kids that has to do with the Texas studies. But she also, during our time, we'll watch shows like 1883, which is about them going through the whole Texas-Oregon Trail. It's on Paramount Plus. And just when we go to El Paso, which is my hometown, she loves seeing like the missions and learning about like the indigenous tribes that are there and all the settlements and things like that. So again, if it's something you love, that's really going to keep you going because you don't mind learning new things. You don't mind finding exciting ways to get the kids to learn these things. And the kids can see when you're passionate about something.
And you mentioned new technologies. So AI, right? So that's got to be the one, right? I mean, where else are we going? New technology. So how are you thinking about AI in what you're doing or what have you been doing with it?
I love it. I let the kids debug their code with it. I let the kids even create frameworks with it. They think that AI is going to do everything for them. Well, have them program your drone and see how well that works for you. And then they actually start seeing that it's not perfect and sometimes it doesn't work and the libraries that they import don't even exist and things like that. I'm like, okay, so then how are you going to use AI to help you continue to develop it, right? And so they'll start driving it. They start at, okay, so this and this issue occurs. How can we correct it? And can you tell me, can you add comments? Can you explain where this goes? And I don't even mind the kids using them. And they think it's so taboo because, maybe in their writing class, they're not allowed to use it, or in their math class, they're not going to have it solve a problem for them. But I really think in a world where with like Python, which I still struggle with, we have this tool that can really help you get through to it. And so I embrace it. Another thing I used it for is just yesterday we started a league at our campus, and it's called the Code Drone. No, not a Code Drone. I'm sorry. The Coder Z. We do all these programs and all these. We're doing Coder Z right now. We just opened up a league. And so I created teams, groups of threes with the kids, and these kids are going to be programming from January till February. And it's a competition, and the top 20% will move on into a state championship. Well, one of the things that they did was they were creating team flags, and I taught the kids how to use like image generators to create their flags because the whole graphic design aspect of it, maybe you're 12 and you don't know how to create a nice logo. You can use AI.
Just use Midjourney or DALL-E or whatever else you've got nowadays to go and generate your flag for you.
Exactly.
You could probably pencil draw it. I saw an app the other day that it was an agent. So the AI agents are going to be the big thing, right? So it's not just the LL, it's what's built on it, right? So these agents are cool. And there was one that would allow you to do like let's say you wanted to do an app interface, and you could draw it literally on a napkin with a pen and pick a picture of it and upload it, and it'll render the interface like
I've
real.
seen that. I've seen the
Is it
ad for that,
Replit?
man.
I think it might be Replit or something like that. It's an AI agent that'll literally build you now, will code an app interface based on like a napkin drawing. Oh, I want a window here. I want some text here. I want I'll drop down here, and it'll say, yeah, I'll just build that.
Right. I saw the ad for that, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
Another one that I've seen right now is like you take a picture of yourself, and it generates all these videos for you. Like there's a TikTok that's like going viral right now, or a template where people are like, well, I think my 2024 year was lame, but then I remember I won a World Series, and it shows a video of you hitting a home run, and then
Crazy.
yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, I was saying this to my colleague. I think it was just even yesterday. I was showing him Sora, and we were looking at Sora, and I said, can you imagine what the folks at Pixar that pioneered like Toy Story and computer animation? And if you ever read Creativity Inc., which is an absolutely amazing book by Ed Catmull, it is brilliant. It's the story behind Pixar, and it journeys all the way back to like one of the very first computer rendered images, which was like Mr. B. It's like a bumblebee. It is, to watch it today, you go, oh, it looks like a rough pencil drawing, right? And they were so jazzed up in like hopefully I'm getting my timeline right. I think it was in the 80s or maybe even in the late 70s, this Mr. B. But Creativity Inc. goes through, and I'm just thinking to myself as I'm looking at Sora and I'm looking at text to video, that in a lot of instances is almost, you can't tell, right? Am I looking at real or is that not? And it's literally a text prompt. And thinking about what these guys must be thinking. These guys and gals that work so hard to get that kind of started, right? And here we are today where you can just type in a phrase and I can have, a giant green kitten bouncing on the moon and it looks like it's like photorealistic.
So the thing that I think everyone overlooks is they don't realize this is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only going to get better. Like, what? Yeah. So what you're looking at, and you're amazed right now, but this is the worst it's going to be. It's going to keep growing.
It's going to be there. That's either really, really cool, and I'm an optimist, so I go cool. But there could be some, the pessimists out there are going to go, oh yeah, that ain't going to be good, because deep fakes and all these kinds of things. I mean, it's going to be hard, and which is to coming back around to like students. I was talking to oh gosh, Dan. We were talking about 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about being able to discern using AI in a understanding like what the outputs look like, how to be critical about what you're seeing, right? Because students, you don't want to just take things at face value anymore. You need to think critically about what does that output really look like? Is that real, or is that not real? Or is, to your point with code, I can't just drop code into my drone and trust that that's going to work. I have to be more critical about how I approach it, right? I have to think about, well, that may have been a good starting point, but this is now just a base foundation that I can use to craft and ultimately perfect my code or better my code. That seems to me what students are really going to have to learn is working with these technologies and understanding their limitations, and also kind of what might be perceived as real might not be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's one for you. One that I don't understand. Again, I don't really have a background in programming or anything, but one is PID. To this day, I don't get it.
What is PID? Tell me.
It's a formula for auto-correcting in programming. So let's say you say turn right 90 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
If the robot overturns, it's going to self-correct itself to the exact 90 degree.
Do you know what the acronym stands for? Is it an acronym?
It's let me get it.
We'll look it up because I'm curious now. So it self-corrects?
Correct. Yes. PID.
That's pretty cool. So it's self-correcting its own errors.
Yes.
So it has the ability to know that I've made an error and I need to correct it, and this is how I'm going to correct it.
The proportional, integral, and derivative.
Proportional, integral, and derivative. And that's a model? That's a programming kind of model or language, or?
Yes. And so from what I get out of it, again, I've been trying to learn it through AI and videos and all kinds of stuff, and I still don't get it. Even driving AI to it. But from what I understand is like you have a tolerance, right? And then the robot is going to turn at that velocity and it's going to go with the difference. So if you're 10 degrees off, the robot is decreasing in velocity as it approaches that zero because your velocity is turning into that difference. And then it tries to land in that tolerance. So as long as there's a 3-degree tolerance or so on. But that's kind of what.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. That is amazing. And did you see the Jetson Nano that just came out from NVIDIA? Have you seen this beast? Paraflops. I mean, the computing power on this thing is scary, and it fits in the palm of your hand. It's called the Jetson by NVIDIA, like the Jetson Nano. And again, I'm not going to do this right. I'm going to mess this all up, but it's like petraflops. It measures speed in petraflops or something like this, or calculations per second, or it's trillions of like calculations per second. It would take you to count to that would be an infinite time to count to the number of processes it can do in like a second.
Interesting.
It's wild. It's literally insane. They just came up, I think, beginning of the week. He did the keynote.
I think I was more into the 5070s, the graphics cards that just came out. Super affordable and amazing.
Yeah, this thing's it's like $600.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now.
It's wild. Now I think it's back ordered for 5 years, but but it's unbelievable, right? So your students are growing up in a world that is going to be changing exponentially. I mean, I grew up in the 80s and I was there in the beginning. I remember no internet, and I remember analog. I remember dial phones. And I remember having like the little old 80s tech. I think somebody just put something on Facebook where you're really old if you remember getting one of these, and it was one of the little football things that was just little dots on a screen, and we thought that was like football. We were like, this is great. It's just random dots on a screen. And to think that we've come from there to here in just that time. And now you think about where these kids today that you're teaching, what they're going to see.
So I remember having like a 30-foot telephone cord running in my bedroom so that I can get internet. And we used to use like the AOL trial CDs to get the 30 days of AOL.
You bought hours. Remember, you got hours.
Oh my gosh. And then we went to the Net 10 and man.
That's crazy.
But that brings me to the point where we need to help facilitate these kids' interest in these things, right? So a lot of kids just want to consume media. All they want to do is watch videos on YouTube all day or watch, Twitch all day. They're not. I wanted to build computers when I was a kid, and I still build my PC and update it year after year. And I think that's where we need to drive these kids, because a lot of people are afraid of what technology is, because it's like, oh, these kids aren't playing sports anymore. And while I agree the kids still need their sports and they still need to get out and get fresh air and things like that, but I think what's at their fingertips is incredible. And I'm not talking about just swiping up on YouTube Shorts, like all these resources that are made, man. And Elon Musk is going to be hiring these people to make those. Do you see those at his keynote where he had like the robots that are intended to help clean your house and watch your kids and things like that?
I was watching the hand dexterity, which is unbelievable. I think if nothing else from those Tesla bots, I forget what they're called. Unbelievable, the hand dexterity. So it was taking and holding an egg. And do you know how hard that must be to get the sensitivity to not crush the egg? Like that to me is the mind-blowing thing. We've watched Boston Dynamics get the bipedal right going, and that's been cool to watch, and the robot dogs are kind of wild and stuff like this. But when you saw that thing hold an object, you know, so delicately, it was like, wow, that's where it makes, now you see where it can be doing things around for you, for disabled
Folding
people.
clothes.
Folding, yeah, that comes to mind too. Folding clothes, these kinds of things. Yeah, they're going to grow up in a wild world, and you know, it's either be in it or be a part. You know, be a part of it, or be subject to it in a lot of ways, right? Like I was just having a conversation with my wife about this, and even my partner, my business partner, about utilizing AI and how to really learn to use it and not just think about it as a tool that just generates text. Like, oh yeah, you just wrote that with AI. Well, that's one way to use it. But, you know, I don't ever want to, I watch way too many people age up around me that just shun technology. And I watch them and I'm like, you're helpless in this environment. You don't know how to handle even a lot of stuff on this. You know, I can't even explain to my wife. I still don't think she understands the difference between being on a Wi-Fi network and like a cellular data network. I don't think she can comprehend what the difference between those two things are. Not because she couldn't, because I don't think she's interested, but it kind of goes, oh, you're gonna become irrelevant. Like you're going to let time pass you by, and you're not going to understand the very things that you're going to consume everything, but you're not going to understand how to really use it to your advantage, right? Because you just don't understand the kind of root behind it. And I think that's what you're doing with your kids is don't just consume, you know, understand the backbone of it, be a part of it, be in the mix of it, right? And ride this wave, because it's a fast moving wave. I mean, it's going to move quick. Look what GPT's done in just a couple of years.
Yeah. They need to learn, again, how to drive it to get to somewhere, how to learn something, use it for debugging. There's just so many things that it can help them. And it goes back to those teachers that are getting burnt out. Like, I think the biggest thing is the tedious things like making tests or analyzing data. Like these are things tools that it can help you.
Absolutely.
And even going back to like Elon Musk's robot, think about the productivity if you can get rid of these tedious tasks from your life and the other things that you can do with that time. And if you don't want to be productive, think about the leisure that you can get from, you know, having that help.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe this is a good segue into kind of like where I like to like kind of sign off is optimism, right? So we're having what I think is a really intriguing conversation because I think it's fascinating. I wish that I were born. I don't wish, but it would have been interesting to be born maybe 20 years later, 30 years later, because I look at what these kids are going to see. And yeah, I got to see some great stuff. I saw us come online, right? Like, that's pretty cool. I mean, I can at least say that I was alive during kind of the fourth IR, right? Where we're seeing technology. I remember, I mean, again, I was a kid in the 70s. So there was no technology, right? It was analog. Everything was analog and Casio watches. And I've gotten to see the internet and I've gotten to see this whole thing and cell phones and connectivity and all this and even AI. I'm in it, right? I'm only a certain age. And now, but what they're going to see, my gosh, because it just is moving so much faster. You know, those 20, 30 years, now we're in this hyper accelerated growth where, to your point, these Soras and these AI, they're brand new and they're already blowing our minds. Like, imagine in 5, 10 years, 15 years, what it's going to be like. So what are you optimistic about, Omar? Like, what makes you about, and let's put it in the context of education. What gets you, what's jazzing you up a little bit there?
Like, as far as what keeps me optimistic about going to work, or what keeps me optimistic?
School, I mean, the future of education. It's really easy. You know, a lot of people think that our educational system's broken, and it's easy to get down on where things are, and we've got this polarization of the nation, and there's all these negativity around us, and you know, that's easy to fall into. I think that's the easy way. You know, it's harder to maintain a positive attitude. And so it can be anything, you know, but I think in the context of your classroom and technology or where, tell me what's got you excited.
I really do think that being in technology, it's a very unique position because it's forever evolving, right? So you know, you think of the Pythagorean theorem, it's the same as it was when we were kids, and it's still the same right now, as well as PEMDAS or, you know, writing techniques and so on. Or reading, I guess, not writing. Writing's going to change with AI. But even with drones, something, you know, going into this fits perfect with the drone legends and with my drone class. Those things are evolving crazy fast, and at some point I'm going to get to teach that, and I'm hopeful to go to these trainings. I can't wait to get my hands on the new drones. I can't wait to, you know, learn these things so I can teach them. But I look at like the fireworks shows that are happening in China with the drones are just
the light shows are unbelievable.
no, these are mixtures of
the
drones
mixtures
with
of
fireworks.
New Year's Eve was insane.
With the dragon in that circle.
With that, it's crazy, right?
And you look at these futuristic cities like Chongqing in China, and you look at how like those cities are built, and everything that you want to look into the future, just go look at China.
Wow, yeah.
Like Chongqing is the most beautiful city I've ever seen.
Wow.
But yes, and so what keeps me optimistic is like I'm not gonna get bored of teaching the same concept. And again, history's great if you love that. Math is great if you love that. But I feel like they're not evolving because history happened in the past. Well, history will continue to happen unless you're, you know, studying a specific era. But you know, and with math. But with us, like we get the evolution of these products, and we get to play with them.
Every year is a new adventure, right? Everything's coming out, new stuff's coming out, the new drones, the new robots, new improved coding. It's just awesome. So you get, oh man, your job sounds great because I'm a techie. I love tech stuff. Like I can't wait. Like I just got this, and I'm like, I can't wait to go use it. This is the DJI mic Mini 2s, and I'm like, and I'm looking at this going, how cool is this? These little mics, and I've got, you know, I've got all my drones. I've got the DJI Neo over there, and of course I have my Mavics and all that stuff. There's my 3D printer, and so I've got all this stuff, right? I love my tech, and I try not to go too crazy because it's just, you know, it gets obsolete quick. So I'm always like, do I really need the new iWatch, or should I just wait for the next one next year? And so, but
yeah, no, I just got like a JBL surround sound and 70-inch TV on Facebook Market for $200, and it still works great. So like, yeah, do we need the new stuff, or can we get on Facebook?
That's amazing, right? Because isn't that amazing that you can buy that? I mean, I remember when I got my first 42-inch flat screen, it was a plasma, and I think the whole rig that I set up was like, and this was like 19 years ago, and it was probably like $1,200 to put that whole kind of get that. And the plasma was kind of heavy. It's like it was like more one of those like industrial flat screen monitors they put in like the airports and stuff. But it was like a Samsung plasma. It's a plasma. They didn't make plasmas anymore. I don't think they even do plasma. It was heavy. It was like, and I thought it was thin, but it was like this thick, you know?
Heavy. Plasma TVs were that. I don't think people realize how heavy they were, man.
So heavy, but I thought it was the coolest thing because it was like a 42-inch widescreen flat screen, and I was like, oh. And now, what size did you just get?
70-inch.
70.
I remember like when my dad got like a 50 or 60-inch RCA, like those big boxes with the wheels on the. Crazy,
it's
man.
Amazing. Well, this is great, man. Hey, listen, I could talk to you forever. This is fun. I love this kind of stuff. Tell us. So we're gonna link to your Twitter, X. You've got your book. We're going to link to your book. Do you have a copy of it that you hold up, or no, not with you?
In the other room.
In the other room. So there you go. We'll hold it up virtually. There it is. And we'll link to it. And anything else, I'll tell you what you do is if there's anything else you want us to link to in the show notes, just send me the email and we'll put it all in the bottom there, link to your website and all that good stuff. We'll get you going. Anything else you want to say before we sign off? Any last parting words for the folks out there?
No, just thank you so much for having me, and to any teachers out there that are getting burned out. Just try to find something that you love, try to figure out what keeps you going, and really hone in on that and focus in on that, because I really think that's the hardest part for some of us to do when work gets a little convoluted with all the extra tasks. We forget our why, and so to speak. So I guess that's my biggest thing, is just hang in there.
Hang in there. All right. I love it. Omar, thank you so much, man. We will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.